Are there certain things that people are doing that you wish they would just stop doing?
Using Q-tips. You know,
It's your pet peeve.
It's a pet peeve. You know, certainly there's a science behind it that you think, you know, you're putting it in, you're taking it out, but really you could be pushing more in than you're pulling out. So now you have a huge impaction in your ear, which could, you know, make hearing difficult, not to mention painful, you know, that really hurts. And something that, you know, is of greater concern to me is, you know, you don't necessarily know how deep you're going, and you could puncture your eardrum with the Q-tip, and there's, you know, a branch of our facial nerve that sits right behind our eardrum, so heaven forbid you know, go right through the eardrum, you could also hit your facial nerve, which would obviously cause, you know, a lot of damage.
Yeah, right, yeah, and that facial nerve, I know my 6-year-old has ear infections every now and then, and this one time he had a bad middle ear infection. He didn't complain about the ear, he never does. He complained about his jaw.
Oh my goodness.
And so then we were like, oh, like we're looking in his mouth and checking it and everything, and then yeah, that night his eardrum ruptured, and then it was like, oh, all right, it was just the seventh nerve.
Goodness gracious. It just shows everything is so connected in here. It's all interrelated.
You also see some musicians sometimes, right?
We do also see some musicians, and certainly that's something we will offer, you know, custom hearing protection, filtered plugs so that they can preserve the frequency response of their music. Also, as a musician, that's something that's really important to me. You definitely want the right kind of product. So certainly.
What do you play?
I play the flute and the piccolo and the piano.
Wow,
so
multi-talented.
Not really. But, you know, certainly hearing protection is a big thing there, because you need to preserve what you have. And oftentimes, you know, if you're in a marching band, if you're in a band in the garage, if you're even in an orchestra, you're surrounded by, you know, 70 other instruments, and that's a really noisy situation. So you need something that's going to protect your hearing, but allow you, you know, to maintain that frequency response so you can hear what you're playing. And so certainly with musicians, something that's appropriately fit is going to be, you know, the best option there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess my other question is, like, aside from tinnitus, are there other situations, like maybe, I guess you're traveling soon too, right? And so you're going to be using sleep phones?
Yes, I will. As I mentioned before, I don't like the feeling of headphones that sit in my ear or sit on top of, because I just find them very uncomfortable. So, you know, sleep phones has really been kind of a nice open door there too. So now, you know, if I'm on a long distance road trip or something, and if I just want to listen to my music, it's a nice comfortable option. So I've been really happy to use the product and learn from it.
So with earbuds and hearing aids and just stuff like being in the ear for most of the day, you know, that can sometimes compact the room in earwax, and sometimes even like if it doesn't fit very well, it can cause pain. So like, have you seen problems related to stuff in the ears?
I certainly have.
Okay.
You know, that's generally why at the end of the day we say, you know, take the hearing aids out. It can be good to give your brain a break, you know, from so much stimulation. You know, tinnitus aside, but it can also cause discomfort. So, you know, if you're sleeping with, you know, headphones in the ear, or if you're sleeping, you know, with the hearing aid in the ear, it can cause pressure points in the canal, which then could possibly turn into sores or, you know, other uncomfortable situations. Certainly, you know, impacted cerumen, because you haven't given your ear a chance to do its natural process of letting the wax back itself out of the ear. So definitely good to, you know, if you've been wearing something, you know, all day, good to give it a break at night.
Okay.
Yes.
Over the years, have you seen more and more young people in your practice, because more and more people are listening to, you know, stuff in their...
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, and that's certainly a cause for concern, because these young people are brought up, you know, headphones are normal. It's, everyone walks around the street with their headphones in. They sit in study hall with their headphones in, and you know, certainly there's not necessarily any control over how much volume they're putting into their ears, and that's, you know, very alarming to me, just because I see, you know, noise-induced hearing loss on a regular basis, and I want to prevent that from happening, because, you know, once your hearing is gone, nothing can completely restore it. You know, sure, hearing aids are available, and sure, they're, you know, awesome and very helpful, but nothing can restore that hearing, you know, that you had. And noise-induced hearing loss is the only kind of preventable hearing loss out there. So, you know, if it's ever in your power, you know, don't listen to the headphones all day long. Listen at those, you know, safe and comfortable levels, just so that you don't, you know, cause that noise-induced hearing loss in the future.
Yeah. So another question that came in was, you know, how people will go to the dentist for checkups and then, you know, to the eye doctor to check their eyes. So going to an audiologist, do you have specific tips for people to help prevent hearing loss over time and to preserve their hearing?
So typically I'll say, you know, if noise is of concern, you know, if you're in a situation, you know, there's a lawnmower going on and you're not the one doing the lawn mowing, you know, walk away. Put yourself, you know, a good distance between, you know, the noisy cause and yourself, because distance can protect hearing. You know, if you're listening to a personal music device, you know, it's always turn it to the left, turn it down, keep it at safe levels. One of the other important things is, you know, if you're going to a concert, if you are mowing the lawn, if you're going to fireworks, you know, anything that is very, very loud, always use hearing protection, because that is, like I said, you know, 100% preventable.
Yeah.
We live in a noisy world and none of us is completely immune to it, but you know, if you're putting yourself in those situations, you certainly have to take precautions. And then, you know, start your annual hearing test. You have your annual eye exam, your 6-month cleaning at the dentist. You should really add your annual hearing test onto that battery. The sooner we're able to detect a hearing loss, or at the very least, or at the very least, you know, obtain a good baseline, we can track those changes over the time. And certainly the sooner that we start to see hearing loss, the earlier we're able to treat and manage. So.
Cool. Yes. Yeah. I know for us, I actually always carry earplugs in my purse because I'm concerned about my 6-year-old, and I don't want, like, you know, you get into a situation, you're like, well, I wasn't expecting this, and then but they're so small, so I just carry them, and so, you know, my purse full of junk, you know, I just pull that out and stick them in. And
they're in my purse too.
At least protect him. Yeah.
That's right. Now you got to carry some to protect yourself too.
Yeah. Are there certain professions where you see a lot of patients from, you know, they're in a loud environment?
I would say, you know, definitely individuals working in like manufacturing plants or in industry where there's a lot of different machinery and it's very loud. You know, certainly individuals in the military who are exposed to firearms on a regular basis. These are very high noise level professions, and certainly I would recommend, you know, using hearing protection, you know, when you're around that noise.
Is there a particular type of hearing protection? Because there are the foam ones that stick in, and then there's the like silicone waxy kind of stuff, and then there's the big canned ones like you see at airports. Yeah.
So, you know, certainly there are the over the ear ones. You can certainly use the foam insert ones. The thing with that is you want to make sure that it's inserted completely, because if it's sticking out, then you're not getting that full noise reduction that you're supposed to have. And then certainly I would say, you know, one of the best options is the custom made just plugs. It's a silicone material, and it just completely blocks out your ear. You know, it's going in your ear properly because it's made only for you, so you're really getting that maximum level reduction. You know, and it's never a bad idea to double up on that either. I'm a past trap shooter, and I used to use, you know, the foam plugs in the ear with the over-the-ear buds. That was when I was 13, so I must have known I was going to be an audiologist.
Yeah, for sure.
But never a bad idea to use 2 different kinds either.
Yeah. Can you explain a little bit about how an ear works?
Yes. So a lot of people say, you know, well, we hear with our ears, which is only partially true. Our ears are really just the doorway in. So, you know, as we hear, sound is collected by our outer ear, and then it travels down our ear canal and hits our eardrum. The sound hitting the eardrum sets those 3 little bones in the middle ear into motion, which then the stirrup, if you will, kind of lets the organ of hearing know that sound is coming in. So then the organ of hearing takes all of this information and transmits it. Cochlea, yep. Okay. Transmits all that information up the auditory nerve to the brain where it's processed and understood. So certainly, you know, our ears are precious. They're fragile, you know, sturdy, but we want to take care of them to the best of our abilities.
Yeah. And so that would be the sensory neural hearing, and then there's also conductive.
Yes, so conductive hearing loss is something, you know, that would be caused by like an ear infection or fluid in your middle ear space, where in itself, you know, the cochlea and the nerve are both working functionally. So if we could theoretically bypass the problem going on, you would be able to hear just fine. Whereas the sensory neural hearing loss, affects either the sensory cells on our organ of hearing or the nerve itself. And that's going to be more permanent in nature. And that's what's noise-induced hearing loss is a sensory neural hearing loss. So, once it affects those structures, there's no reversing that.
So the noise-induced actually affects the cochlea itself.
Yes, it does.
And I've heard that there are these little hair cells in there with little otoliths, the little rock-like things. They're like probably sand size or even smaller. And so then, it's and they get vibrated, and then so that's what sends the signal to.
So the little crystals are in our balance area, but on top of, if this is a hair cell, on top of the hair cell, there's other tinier hairs. So when the stirrup sends that information, there's fluid in our cochlea, and that sends the information, and it kind of tickles those top hair cells, which then transmits that signal to the nerve. Those are little nerve endings.
And so if one of them breaks, or is that what causes the sensory noise? Like it just
structural damage.
Structural damage to those actual little hairs, and so then that can't repair that.
Right.
So what are some of the things that people do every day or frequently that may be a problem?
So if you're lawn mowing. This is something where, no, you don't want to put headphones in and crank the volume to overcome the lawnmower. You want to put the hearing protection in so that you don't hear the lawnmower. Another thing is if you're snow blowing. If we're in Erie, so naturally there's quite a bit of snow. If you're snow blowing, put the hearing protection in. Even if you're vacuuming, vacuums can really emit a ton of sound. So, if you're vacuuming your house, not a bad idea just to put some plugs on or in to protect yourself. A lot of concert goers, certainly, if you're going to a concert, I'm all for it, but you're going to want to listen at safe levels. And finally, there's, a lot of hunters and, people who shoot guns for sport, and that's definitely something, those impulse noises are so hazardous to your ears, so you've got to do everything you can in that moment to protect yourself.
Okay, how high can that go up to?
I think it's like 140 decibels, so, one time can really wreak havoc on your auditory system.
Yeah, I had a patient once who, he was working in a garage, and they were fooling around because they're, college students, and one of the other guys blew an air gun in his ear, and he came in 2 weeks later. He's like, I still can't really hear out of it. I've got really bad tinnitus, it's ringing all the time, and so.
That's the kind of stuff that gives me chills. And certainly, you bring up a good point. Even a one-time exposure, people will say, well, it only happened one time. One-time exposures can leave a footprint, for the rest of your life. You think, say you go to that noisy concert and you leave, and sure, your ears are ringing, you feel like everything is muffled because you can't hear. You wake up in a couple mornings, it's gone. But, you feel fine, but that damage is still there. It has still left its footprint. So, when we see noise-induced hearing loss, it's this buildup, this accumulation over time of that damage that we incurred when we were young, going to concerts and doing what people do.